If you need it, after the amputation wound heals, you can consider wearing a prosthetic limb, the doctor said, and then left the hospital room. After James learned that his left lower leg had been amputated, he smashed everything within reach. I was standing in the corner and got my hand cut by the shattered glass bottle. I stared at the blood beads for a moment, then licked the blood off my hand. He was panting heavily, glaring at me, and sneered meanly, "Even you come to laugh at me? What the hell are you? You damned queer. I'm not here to laugh at you." I asked him, "Do you need to use the restroom? I can help you. Get out. Don't touch me." I tried to feed him meals and water, but he knocked them over. After cleaning up, I tried again. The patient is like a child, and I have plenty of patience and strength. In the evening, when I came back from the hospital cafeteria with food, as soon as I reached the door of the hospital room, I heard a sobbing female voice inside. It was James' school flower girlfriend. "James, let's break up. My family won't agree to me being with a disabled person." "Okay." I heard James' hoarse voice. I turned around and left, then bought a red dress and a wig at a clothing store not far from the hospital. I ran back to the hospital and plopped down beside James in his hospital room. The girl was startled when she saw me and asked, "James, who is she?" I turned my head and glared at the crying girl in front of the hospital bed. "I'm James' new girlfriend. Don't come looking for my James anymore. He has plenty of people who like him, and he doesn't need you." The girl stared at me in disbelief, then looked at James. "You're a cripple, and you're cheating, you jerk." She covered her face and ran away. James, no longer able to dwell on his sadness, stared at me in shock. "Who the hell are you?" "Oliver," I replied truthfully. The hand I'd touched jerked back as if he'd come into contact with something filthy. "Don't worry, she won't pity you now. If you like women, I'm available too. Get out of here. She doesn't love me anymore. She hates me now." He roared at me. I pursed my lips, then turned my back to him, took off the dress and the wig. I changed into my original clothes from the plastic bag, went to the bathroom to remove my makeup and wash my face. When I came out, a nurse was changing James for drip. James' entire face was bright red. I stuffed the bedpan under his covers. "Go ahead and pee." He glanced at the young nurse, and his face got even redder. He put the back of his hand over his face, and I thought I saw a tear slide from the corner of his eye. James was good looking, smart, and athletic. He was the only heartthrob in the 2 high schools in town. At 18, he was the pride of our area, but now he couldn't even take care of his own toileting. Buying a dress drained all my money. That night, when I went home to get some more, I could see from afar that the lights in my house were off. I let out a sigh of relief, then went upstairs and opened the door. The house was in such a mess that it looked like it had been ransacked. I ignored it and went to my room. Sure enough, my door had been pried open, and the inside was even messier than the living room. I started rummaging around in the places where I'd hidden my money. 3 out of the 5 hiding places had been found. Fortunately, those were just decoys I'd set up on purpose, with only small change hidden there. Altogether, it didn't even add up to $100. I took out all the money I had left and stuffed it in my pocket, then headed back to the hospital. "Can you hold onto this money for me?" I stuffed the money into James' hands. "My dad's a gambler, and this is my meal money for next semester." His hand, which was about to refuse, paused. "As an exchange for me taking care of you." When James returned to school, all the teachers showered him with concern. "James, you mustn't give up on yourself. Even though your leg is broken, you can still change your fate with knowledge. Technology is so advanced these days. As long as you study hard, there might be a solution in the future. Yeah, you study hard. Next year, bring a city top scorer title back to our school. It's been years since our county had a student admitted to Tsinghua or Peking University. Someone sent him flowers, and many people wrote him letters. Those things, along with the review materials given by the teacher, were all thrown into the trash by him. Also, some male classmates blocked him in the corridor when he was returning to the classroom from the toilet. "James, you're disabled. What are you still acting so cocky for?" Someone shoved him, and caught off guard while on his crutches, he fell to the ground. The male classmates burst into laughter. "Hey, can you get up by yourself? How about you call me Big Brother, and Oliver will help you up. You girls take a look. This is the useless guy you like. He can't even crawl." James stretched out his hand, trying to get the crutch that had slipped out of his hand just now. But a boy got to the crutch first and kicked it several meters away. Go get it. James' eyes were wide with anger, veins popping out on his forehead, and he reached forward, trying to crawl. This was the scene I saw when I rushed out of the classroom. I quickly stepped forward, pushed aside the boys blocking him, picked up the crutch and gave it to James, then helped him up. The broken part of his leg was hit, and blood stained the empty trouser leg, dripping onto the floor. Is Oliver here to play the hero? James, you've actually gotten involved with Oliver. I froze and looked at James. He had always resisted me, and maybe I really shouldn't have shown up at this moment. Standing beside me would only make him feel embarrassed. I let go of the hand that was supporting him, but the next second, he grabbed my forearm. I looked at him, and he stared intently at those male classmates with foul mouths. With one hand supporting me and the other holding his crutch, he fought them all. The male classmates who got hit yelped in pain. What are you doing? Stop bullying James. Finally, the teacher came and ended this farce. All the boys who bullied James got demerits, while James, who fought back, was gently comforted. He was sent to the hospital again, and throughout the whole process, his parents never showed up. I accompanied James to the hospital and then realized that James' father had never appeared since his amputation. The prepaid medical expenses are not enough, I said as I returned to the ward and asked him, do I need to contact your dad? I only knew he was from a single-parent family and his mother had passed away. No need, he said, and directly handed me a card. The password is 6 6s. I went to pay the fee, then came back and returned the card to him, asking, where's your dad? Dead. I was stunned for a moment. Good. I also wish my dad was dead. He glanced at me, took the card, and transferred $100 to me on his phone. Go buy me a pack of cigarettes. I stared at him, feeling that his attitude towards me seemed to have softened a bit. Smoking is bad for your health. Lying on the hospital bed, he said impatiently, are you going or not? Being snapped at, I pouted and slowly took out a pack of Furongwang cigarettes from my trouser pocket. He was startled for a second, then immediately snatched it, took out a cigarette and put it in his mouth. Lighter! I fished out a lighter from the other pocket and lit the cigarette for him. Then I watched as he coughed after taking a big puff. I'd never seen him smoke before. He was such a good student. I took the cigarette from his hand, took a puff myself, and blew out a perfect smoke ring. You gotta breathe through your mouth when you inhale. The smoke can be really harsh, so be prepared. I taught him. He gave me a look that was hard to read as he stared at the cigarette butt in my hand. He took out a new cigarette from the pack, lit it, and started smoking. Then we got caught by the nurse and she gave us an earful. Can't you see the big no smoking sign in the ward? James' grades dropped in the monthly exam. He went from being first in the grade to last, and was lectured by each subject teacher in turn for the whole morning. At noon, I complained to him, why didn't you tell me? If I'd known, I wouldn't have written the exam either and would have gone to the last exam room. We've never been in the same exam room before. Just thinking about it makes me look forward to it. I'm really bad at some subjects, and my grades are average. James used to always be in the first exam room. He let out a scornful laugh. Back in the classroom, instead of studying, he started playing games. I grabbed my phone and joined him, and then we got knocked out as soon as we landed. When I got home in the evening, I knew something was off as soon as I opened the door. Before I could make a run for it, a rough hand grabbed my collar. You little rascal, coming back so late. Where have you been fooling around? A huge hand like a palm leaf fan came down on me. I fought back and we scuffled, but I still couldn't beat him. After the beating, my dad rummaged through my pockets and school bag, and all the stuff in my school bag was dumped out haphazardly. You little brat, where's your money? I slumped on the ground and said, I don't have any money. He slapped me again. I wanted to kick him, but my body hurt too much. Don't you lie to me. Didn't you go work during the summer vacation? Where's your paycheck? I paid the tuition with it. All you do is go to this lousy school every day, and your grades aren't even that good. You might as well go work and support your old man. I gave birth to you and raised you, and you don't know how to repay me at all." He took the $25 from me and left, muttering curses. The next day, as soon as James saw me, he frowned and asked, "Who beat you up?" "My gambling-addicted dad." He was speechless for a moment, then said, "Don't you know how to fight back?" "I can't beat him." The look in his eyes when he looked at me became even more disdainful. I thought that he could be really fierce even with a crutch, so he indeed had the reason to look down on me. During the break, he didn't have to go do the exercises. I also wanted to skip, but the class monitor and the study committee member dragged me along, because I had skipped for many days, and our class had even been deducted points because of that. When I came back to class, I found a bottle of Yunnan Baiyao in my desk. I held the medicine and looked at my desk mate, asking, "Did you buy this for me?" James was sleeping and didn't answer. I gave him a little push. "Annoying. Piss off." It was really him. I looked at his leg, and suddenly, a strange feeling welled up inside me. But the next second, James' cold voice came. "I'm not into you. Don't get the wrong idea. I only like girls." My heart sank to the bottom again. James and I got punished for sleeping and talking in class. He had to write a self-criticism, and I had to do cleaning. "You can't sleep again. Why sleep in class?" I was sweeping the floor and looked at James. There was a blank piece of homework paper on his desk, but he didn't seem to have any intention of starting. It seemed he was going to keep on breaking the rules. He sneered, "You think you know everything again? Yeah, after all, I'm the one leading you down the rebellious path. You're just hanging out with me on purpose because I'm gay." The model student hangs out with the notorious sissy, stops studying, and even smokes. After I finished cleaning, I looked at him and asked, "Wanna go to the internet cafe?" He was stunned for a moment, then suddenly laughed and said, "Sure." We went to the internet cafe together, but on the way, we met some uninvited guests. A guy with a flat face led a group of people and blocked our way. "Yo, James, you're really hanging out with this sissy from No. 1 middle school. Did you turn gay? Is it that not only your leg is injured?" The flat-faced guy burst out laughing, and the group of people behind him laughed along. James' face turned ugly. "A good dog doesn't block the way." The flat-faced guy's expression changed, and then he sneered. "Do you know Dad has brought me back home? He doesn't need a disabled son. Now I'm the only young master of the Yen family." I suddenly realized that the Yen family was the richest in the town. There had always been rumors that James had a bastard brother, and it turned out to be true. James looked indifferent. "It's none of my business. Who are you showing off to?" "Matthew, this guy is so ungrateful. Let's teach him a good lesson." James' face turned ashen. He leaned on me with one hand and brandished his walking stick with the other. The first few people who got close were beaten and howled, but there were too many of them, more than a dozen. Soon, someone spotted an opening and directly grabbed the walking stick. Several of them together snatched James' walking stick and threw it far away. James could only stand by leaning on me. Matthew looked on smugly, then suddenly said, "Teach this sissy a lesson too." A group of people surrounded us. Without thinking, I immediately threw myself on top of James, protecting him tightly. Countless hands tugged at me and punched and kicked me. James tried hard to push me away. "Let go, Oliver. Let go." I didn't stop. I did my best to protect James and reduce the harm he suffered. Suddenly, something hard hit me on the head. After the intense pain, a red liquid flowed into my eyes, making them extremely sore. "Oliver." James' eyes turned red. He looked at Matthew and said, "Come here if you dare. Don't you want to know why Daniel hasn't married your mom for all these years? Come here and I'll tell you." The smile on Matthew's face faded. He strode over to James and kicked hard at James' head. James endured it without making a sound. After kicking, Matthew felt relieved and then squatted down. "Tell me why." Before he could finish his words, James' hand, which was under his body, directly struck at his temple. Matthew fell to the ground instantly. I saw that James was holding a stone in his hand. James was sent to the detention center, and Matthew became a vegetable. As a witness, I kept emphasizing, James was acting in self-defense. Finally, Daniel stepped in to solve the problem. One of his sons was in a coma, and the other was disabled. He seemed to have aged 10 years. But after dealing with the matter, he put his arm around a young woman who looked less than 30 and walked away. I heard that he was going to leave the town because of the scandal. I picked James up on the day he got out of the detention center. James was very quiet. I followed him home, waited for him to take a shower, and then cooked noodles for him. "You okay?" He ate and said, "This tastes awful." "Oh, sorry, I don't usually cook noodles." But he still finished it all, not even leaving any soup. "You were really hungry," James responded. "Want another bowl?" He shook his head and looked at me with a dark gaze. "Why did you protect me that day? You could have run away." I blinked. "I'm used to being bullied. I've got the experience, but you don't. Of course I had to look out for you." His lips trembled. "When? Back then, some guys called me a sissy and trapped me in the bathroom. Did they do anything to you?" James asked with some difficulty. I shook my head. "No, I fought back, even though I didn't win." "Yeah, fight back next time too." Winter came especially early in town this year. One gust of autumn wind blew, and then it was winter. James' reputation was completely ruined. At school, classmates passing by would point at him. "Murderer." He was in the detention center and is going to jail. I heard it was his own little brother. How could he do such a thing? His desk was carved with lots of murderer characters by a knife. A perfect match for me. I pointed at the sissy and gay written on my desk. James sneered. The two of us joined forces and isolated the whole class. In the final exam, James was still the last in the grade, and I was the second to last. When the results were announced, seeing our names side by side, I felt a little bit of sweetness in my heart. On the second day of the holiday, I got a beating from my dad and then was kicked out of the house to work during the winter vacation. The overtime pay during the new year was a bit higher. I found a restaurant to wash dishes and didn't have time to stick around James anymore. Unexpectedly, on New Year's Eve, James came to find me. He was on crutches, but his clothes were clean. He walked into the greasy and dirty kitchen and just stared at me quietly. I subconsciously hid my phone, covered hands behind my back and asked, "Why are you here?" His face was solemn. "Can't I come?" "No," I said. "Are you here for a meal? I can treat you, and I can get a discount." "How much do you earn an hour for washing dishes?" he asked me. I shrank my hands. The slippery foam on my hands and the greasy smell lingering at the tip of my nose suddenly became very obvious. 20 yuan. He stuffed a 100 yuan bill into my hand. "The rest of your day belongs to me." I washed my hands clean and followed him out. After going out, I realized it was snowing. The first snow of this year. I tilted my head back, and snowflakes landed on my face. He took me to a pharmacy, bought some frostbite ointment, and then held my hand to apply the medicine. His hands were fair, slender, with distinct joints, and they were really warm, while my hands were scarred and discolored. I tried to pull my hand back, but he held me tight. "Don't move." After applying the medicine, he magically took out a pair of gloves and put them on me. "Happy birthday, Oliver." My gloved hand clenched into a fist at once. "How do you know today's my birthday?" "Guess." I didn't want to guess. I stared at him blankly, and he stared back. After a long while, I suddenly laughed and said to him, "So you know I'm older than you, right? Call me brother and let me hear it." "Fuck off." Today is my 19th birthday. I started school late, but I suddenly felt a bit regretful. I wish I were 18 today. Receiving a birthday gift from the one you love is the best coming of age gift in the world. But 19 isn't too late either. I didn't give you a gift when you were 18. What do you want? I'll make it up to you. I looked at him sincerely. Actually, I originally prepared a pair of designer sneakers and planned to give them anonymously at his birthday party. But this gift isn't suitable anymore. He looked at me with a deep gaze, and something in his eyes became clear. "I want you to give it your all in the start of term exam." I won't refuse James, no matter what he asks me to do. So I took the start of term exam seriously and gave my full performance. I ranked in the middle of the grade, while James was 9th in the grade. We couldn't be in the same exam room again. We've never been in the same exam room. After the grades came out, he looked at my test paper carefully. I sat next to him, hesitant to speak, and finally whispered, "I really did my best. If you're not satisfied, I'll study even harder this semester." I was afraid he'd be dissatisfied with my grades and get angry with me. me, but he just asked me in return, "Oliver, which university do you want to go to?" I looked at him blankly. With my grades, I probably can't get into a university, right? I might learn a trade. It was already very late that day, and there were only the two of us in the classroom, so no one heard this ridiculous conversation of ours. James was touching the words "murderer, why don't you just die?" and "sissy" that were carved with a knife on the desk. Suddenly, he said to me, "Everyone is waiting to laugh at us. So Oliver, we have to jump out of this quagmire and go to a broader world." I stared at him blankly. The moonlight outside the window shone on James' profile, and his handsome face was beginning to show the outline of a man. He actually said, we. I said seriously, "Okay." Although I promised James, apart from being more serious in class, I didn't know how else to work hard. Instead, James made a strict study plan for me. All math problems? I looked at him in confusion. Math was my best subject. My physics and chemistry were also decent, but I failed both Chinese and English, especially English. My score depended entirely on my luck that day, and I've always been unlucky, usually scoring no more than 30 points. "Shouldn't we focus on fixing my weaknesses?" I asked him. He said calmly, "The time is too short, and your weaknesses are too deep to fix. I've looked at all your math test papers from last semester. There were some question types that the teacher didn't teach, but you could still solve them on your own. And our country won't let a high school student with a talent for math have no college to attend." He took out an application form. "You've already missed the math competition. Now, the elite program is your only option. The preliminary round is in 3 days. We'll take a bus to the provincial capital for the exam tomorrow. You need to really master this workbook in these few days." He took out a workbook as thick as the 5-3 series. I gulped and said, "I can't even finish reading it in 3 days, can I?" But then James suddenly smiled at me, reached out and pinched my cheek, saying, "You can do it, Oliver. I stayed up 3 nights to review your papers. You won't let me down, will you?" His voice was soft and affectionate, and his gentle smile caught my eye. Feeling the warm touch of his fingertips on my cheek, my mind went blank and my face flushed instantly. Of course. I won't let you down." I was so charmed by him that I agreed without hesitation. But 3 days was really too short. I could only manage to master some key questions. On the day after the exam, I slunk out of the examination hall. The first person I saw in the crowd was James. My eyes welled up with tears at once. "Sorry, I might not have done well. There were so many questions I couldn't answer." When we got back to school, somehow the news that I was going to take the preliminary test for the elite program got out. All of a sudden, James and I became the laughingstock of the whole grade. "That sissy is so overconfident. He actually joined the elite program. Is his asshole growing on top of his head? Yeah, he's just making a fool of himself. This must be at his own expense, right? Isn't he from a poor family? Where did he get the money to go to the city for the exam? James paid for him. I heard James's dad left him a huge sum of money before he passed away. Is it like James's payment for prostitution?" A group of boys burst into lewd laughter. I happened to pass by and hear this. I felt even more upset and clenched my fists tightly. James never prostituted me. These guys didn't hold back even when they saw me. James quickly regained his position as the top student in the grade after resuming his studies. Since they couldn't find any other flaws in James except his leg, they used me as a scapegoat. The whole school was filled with gossip about the affair between James and me. I stole a cautious glance at James beside me and said, "Should I go and explain to them?" "Explain what?" "Explain that you're straight and haven't slept with me." James looked at me, raising an eyebrow. "You seem disappointed." I touched my face. "Is it that obvious?" He gave a smile with an ambiguous meaning. Just then, the math teacher rushed into the classroom, out of breath. "Where's Oliver?" I instinctively shouted. "Here." His eyes lit up when he saw me. He strode over and patted me on the shoulder. "You passed the preliminary test." My eyes widened in an instant, and the whispering around me stopped abruptly. The smile on the face of the guy who had laughed at me just now froze. He asked the teacher, "Teacher, what preliminary test?" I could hear full of anticipation from his trembling voice. Maybe he was hoping that I had passed a PE test or something. But the math teacher laughed and shattered his hopes. "Of course, it's the preliminary test of the elite program. This is the first student in our county to pass the preliminary test of the elite program in 3 years. Hearing this, I instinctively looked at James, and he was looking at me too. He flashed me a smile, and I felt dizzy all of a sudden. He's so handsome and amazing. He said I could pass the elite program, and I actually did. After the preliminary exam, I started preparing for the retest. James said, "The preliminary round tests raw math talent. You barely scraped through at the last minute. But the final round? It's not just about talent. It demands solid theory, too. You're way behind others, so you'll need to work twice as hard. Come on, Oliver. We'll be having meals together in the college cafeteria next semester." I nodded solemnly. For the first time, I realized that these hands of mine, which used to wash dishes in a small restaurant's kitchen, might have the chance to hold a pen with James and write a bright future for myself. I moved into James's house. High school students, 2 male leads, school uniforms, 24-hour co-living, welcome to study. It completely overturned my previous fantasies about James. We started studying day and night. James studied with me. "You're already first in the grade. If you just keep performing steadily, you're sure to get into the best school. So why are you pushing yourself so hard to study?" I asked him during a break. "It's not enough. The more I learn now, the more time I'll have to learn knowledge beyond textbooks in college." He was already getting in touch with basic college textbooks. I looked at him admiringly and said, "Is this the self-motivation of a study god?" I felt a deep sense of respect, but he just looked at his legs and said, "I've got to make up for my weaknesses in other areas." I couldn't help reaching out to smooth the corners of his mouth and said, "If you don't feel like smiling, don't force it." He looked at me, became expressionless again, and just replied with an "Oliver, you don't need to sell yourself short. Your talent in math is even higher than mine. As long as you put your heart into it, you're sure to pass the elite program." He often said this to me, "One day, you'll also be called a genius in academics." I'd rarely been praised by anyone growing up, let alone by the one I had a crush on. Thanks to his encouraging way of teaching, my confidence was gradually built up bit by bit. On the day I passed the second round of the exam, I was over the moon. Only the final test left. I felt like I was walking on air. Yeah, James looked at my grades and, for once, genuinely smiled. Only the final test left. As summer rolled in, we shed our heavy winter clothes and put on summer wear. My clothes were all at home. Even though I was staying at James' place, I still had to go back home to get some clean clothes. I deliberately scouted the nearby mahjong parlor first. When I saw my dad gambling, red in the face, I felt relieved and quietly went back home. This time, I was going to take everything I needed, including my household register. After this, I wouldn't come back to this home anymore. I wouldn't have to fight with my dad or struggle in this mess any longer. I quickly entered the house and started packing. I had few daily necessities like clothes, so I just stuffed them into a burlap sack. But the household register was in my dad's room, and his room was always locked. We were both on guard against each other like we were thieves, but he could pick locks, and so could I. I fiddled with a wire for a moment, and then his door opened. I immediately went in and started rummaging around. The nightstand, under the bed, the closet, behind the closet, the bathroom, it wasn't anywhere. I was getting more and more anxious. Just then, a rough male voice came from behind me. "You little brat, are you looking for this?" I spun around abruptly and saw my dad had somehow appeared at the door, waving a dark red notebook in his hand. His whole body was in the shadows, only his eyes were sickeningly bright. I suddenly felt a chill all over. My mind raced. Yeah, our school needs the household register for an audit of poverty-stricken student grants for college. This excuse was really lame, but I was betting that my dad didn't know about these things, and he was a money grubber. Sure enough, I saw his eyes light up. "How much is the grant?" "About 3,000. I made up a number casually. He suddenly laughed, his laugh rough and unpleasant. 3,000? That's peanuts. Don't think I don't know. You're in some kind of program to go to college in the capital, right? If you really get in, won't your school give you a bonus of 100 grand or so?" I was shocked. My mind was in a mess. I didn't know how he knew about this. My dad was like a hyena, always on the hunt for money like it was fresh shit. He laughed and walked towards me step by step. 100 grand. I haven't seen that much money in ages. I instinctively stepped back until my lower back hit the corner of the table and stopped. I knew the most urgent thing was to calm my dad down and not let him mess up my final test. I haven't passed yet. There's still an exam. If I pass, I can get the bonus. Then we'll split it 50-50. Just give me the household register first. He sneered darkly. Don't think I don't know what you're up to. If I give you the household register, you'll fly the coop, won't you? And who knows if that money will actually end up in my hands. And I have to split 100 grand with you. He let out a scornful laugh, and a sense of foreboding suddenly welled up in me. I don't understand this exam of yours, but William said you're smart and quick with numbers. He wants you to join us. A look that I was all too familiar with suddenly appeared in his eyes. It was the fanaticism of a gambler about to go all in at the poker table. William is the boss of the casino in our county. The money that passes through his hands every day is more than 100 grand. He promised that if you can make money for him, he'll give you a 10% cut. You can earn tens of thousands a day. Anyway, you'll end up working to make money after college. Now you have this great opportunity. Why bother going to college? My pupils constricted, and I pushed him away violently, trying to rush out. No, I want to go to college. I couldn't stay here and gamble with him. I'd end up rotting here. But he suddenly grabbed the back of my collar. Where do you think you're running? I knew you were an ungrateful wretch. Just like your mom, your grandpa, and your grandma. Your whole family are a bunch of animals. All you care about is your own happiness and won't give me a hand. Do you think you'll take care of me if you go to college? You'll just enjoy yourself and forget all about me. I'm telling you, Oliver, you're not getting out of my grasp. Ignoring my punches and kicks of resistance, he pinned me down and started beating me. Then he reached out and pulled out a small knife. He grabbed my hand and pressed it to the ground. Still daring to resist? I'll cut off your pinky first. He raised the knife high. I was overcome with a huge sense of panic. Memories of being beaten by him countless times since I was a kid flooded into my mind. Felt like my whole body was in pain. Suddenly, I felt completely immobilized, paralyzed by sheer terror. Just then, the sound of a door being broken down echoed. The first one to burst in was my math teacher. Let go of Oliver. You're killing him. The short middle-aged man shrieked and charged at my dad with all his might. You can't touch my math prodigy. Right behind him were the principal, the class teacher, the dean of students, and later, 2 policemen. They stepped forward and restrained my dad. James was the last one to enter. He looked at me with red eyes, sweating all over, and the hand holding the crutch was bulging with veins. Our family lived on the 6th floor of an old residential building. He had only one leg and walked slowly, but he moved towards me steadily, step by step. Don't be afraid, Oliver. Don't be scared. My eyes instantly blurred, and then I burst into tears, sobbing uncontrollably. He walked up to me, dropped his crutch, and hugged me. His eyes were fixed firmly on my dad, yet his voice was softer than ever. It's okay. Everything will be okay from now on. He took me back home. My dad was taken to the police station. Before leaving, my math teacher looked at me reluctantly. Are you sure you don't want to stay at my place? My kids haven't started their summer vacation yet, and there's an empty room. No, thanks, teacher. I was truly grateful to him. The math teacher had always liked me the most. He was the only teacher who would praise me in class. Of course, I only ever got a perfect score in math. James took me home. After I took a shower and sat on the couch, he sat beside me and helped me apply medicine. I asked him, how did you find my home? I knew very well that the teacher and the police wouldn't show up without reason. James must have told them something, but James was unusually quiet today. After a long while, he said, I saw your dad coming home from the casino, so I called the teacher and also reported it to the police. Oh, I replied dryly, thanks for today. After another long silence, there was no response. I looked up at him, but suddenly my eyes were covered by a hand. A hoarse voice said, Oliver, I'm actually quite useless. If my leg hadn't been broken, I could have gone up earlier, and you wouldn't have gotten beaten. My heart clenched. No, that's not true. if it weren't for you, that old bastard would have chopped off my fingers today. I pulled his hand away and looked at him seriously. James, you've done really well. No one could have done better. His eyes red. He avoided my gaze and suddenly said, Oliver, I'm not in the mood for a relationship right now. Let's focus on getting into college first. We can talk about the future after we graduate from college. The venue was large but very quiet. Only a tall and straight figure at the center of the stage was speaking eloquently, introducing the group's new products. But I wasn't at the venue. Instead, I was sitting at my workstation, eating instant noodles and watching the live stream on my phone. A colleague rolled over in their chair, raised an eyebrow and asked, "Is this Intact's new product launch?" With a mouthful of instant noodles, I mumbled, "Yeah, James is as handsome as ever." A female colleague sighed. I nodded silently. Just then, someone shouted from outside, "Oliver, there's someone looking for you." I instinctively glanced at the screen, chewed the noodles faster, and asked, "Who is it?" "Dunno, some good-looking young guy." For a male colleague to admit someone's good-looking, I raised an eyebrow. I took my time finishing the noodles, drank the soup, wiped my mouth, washed my hands, and then went out to meet the person. I passed through 3 doors before reaching the entrance. There stood a handsome guy with delicate features and trendy clothes, looking impatient. Seeing me come out, he sized me up immediately and asked, "You're Oliver?" I nodded. "And you are?" But he was rather unfriendly. "You're just average looking. I don't know what James sees in you." As I expected, a rival in love. Seeing no one around, I leaned against the wall, took out a crumpled Marlboro from my pocket, lit it, and started smoking. The guy across from me showed a disgusted expression visibly. "How poor are you?" "Hey, I'll give you 10 million. Leave James." I lazily blew a puff of smoke in his face. "James is worth 10 zeros now. You're only offering 10 million? A bit stingy, aren't you? Don't be ungrateful. Look at yourself. I don't know what James likes about you. You look poor and boring. Even if you imitate James and smoke Marlboro, you still don't look good." This handsome guy just keeps repeating these 2 lines. He looks like a young master from a wealthy family. He can't even curse properly. I kind of find him cute. I raised an eyebrow. "Me? Imitate James smoking?" I blew another smoke ring in his face. "James looks sexy when he smokes, right?" His eyes flickered for a moment, and he nodded involuntarily. I chuckled. "I taught him, you know. I even helped him pop the bead in his first Marlboro. Because I spoil him, he's still not very good at popping the beads. What can I do? Without me, he wouldn't even know how to smoke." The young guy blushed instantly. You shameless scoundrel." I burst out laughing. But then, a cold male voice suddenly came from behind. "Oliver, what are you doing?" I froze. Instinctively, I took the cigarette out of my mouth and stuffed it into the guy opposite's mouth. My playful expression instantly turned innocent. "James, is the launch event over?" I stepped forward, pretending to hug him. He stood there, opening his arms and catching me steadily. His legs didn't move an inch. He had a very stable stance, but his eyes narrowed as he stared at the cigarette in the boy's mouth not far away. I took the initiative and complained to him. "Your admirer came all the way to my workplace to show off." He patted the back of my head. "I don't know this guy. Don't wrongly accuse me." I raised an eyebrow and looked at the boy. The boy's face turned red. He immediately took the cigarette out of his mouth, threw it on the ground, and stomped on it twice. He looked like he was about to cry. "James, we met at the Listening Wind Pavilion last time." "Really? I don't remember. Sorry." This apology was so cold that it lacked any sincerity. I burst out laughing, raised my eyebrows at the boy, and mouthed silently, "Out." The boy ran off with tears in his eyes. It was already time to get off work. Just then, a colleague was walking out. Seeing us, he greeted, "James, here to pick Oliver up again. Long time no see, Henry." James put on a bit of a smile and greeted him. "I heard your group's research institute is looking for teams again to do the digital model calculations for new products. Consider our team. Don't just go for your partner. Spread the benefits a bit to us outsiders too." Luna said with a teasing smile. I grinned and said, "No way I'm choosing you guys. I give him a 10% discount." "Why would he choose you?" Luna pointed at me from a distance and said, "You're so mischievous." After chatting for a couple more sentences, I got into James Bentley. As I was buckling up, I asked him, Where are you with the 5.0 project? James' company mainly produces various medical devices and prosthetics, and is also at the top of the industry in artificial intelligence. The most eye-catching product at today's launch was the 4.0 version of the intelligent prosthetic. It can truly connect to the human nervous system through an AI chip, making the prosthetic as flexible as a real limb, and even more functional and powerful. And the latest achievement of this product was on James' leg. But there was no response for a long time, and the car didn't start either. I looked to the left and asked, "What's wrong?" James looked at me intently and asked, "How many cigarettes did you secretly smoke today?" My heart skipped a beat. I pretended to be innocent and said, "None. The cigarette smell on me came from that admirer of yours. He even blew smoke rings at me." He let out a cold laugh, then leaned in and kissed me. I tensed up for a moment, then slowly relaxed and started to respond to him. Just as I was getting carried away, he suddenly pulled back. I was so stupid. Lust clouded my judgment. He slightly sat up and adjusted my collar a couple of times. "Your clothes got some oil splashed on them," he said. He lowered his head and took a sniff. "Smells like braised beef. Were you secretly having instant noodles?" His voice wasn't stern, but it still made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Well, I could try to come up with an excuse. No, an explanation. But James didn't listen. He started the car and drove towards home. He didn't say a word the whole way, and I was a bundle of nerves. As soon as we got home, without thinking, I grabbed the keyboard by the entrance and was about to kneel down, my knees going weak, but he anticipated my move. He grabbed the back of my collar, preventing me from kneeling on the keyboard. He dragged me towards the bathroom. I shouted, "I thought you'd be going to the celebration party after today's launch event. I didn't want to eat alone, so I had instant noodles. Punish me then, even if you spank my ass raw and make me kneel and, for you all night, I won't resist." He finally spoke, scoffing at my words. "You broke our promise and expect me to reward you? What are you, daydreaming?" I was speechless. That night, he tied me up and wouldn't let me leave. I was really wrong. I won't secretly smoke or eat instant noodles anymore. He buried his head in my neck, his voice muffled. "Oliver, you're the only one I have. What would I do if you got sick?" I didn't even care that I was still aroused. My heart softened at once. I hugged James tightly and said, "I really won't smoke, eat instant noodles, or drink behind your back anymore. I promise." Then say, "If Oliver still smokes, drinks, and eats instant noodles, James will die of stomach cancer in agony." Clicked my tongue. There's really no need to swear such a harsh oath, is there? Say it. I refused. To be honest, I just had a bit of gastric ulcer during the physical examination in the first half of the year. He's just overreacting. I definitely couldn't bring myself to say such an oath, so I got tossed around. James and I got together during our junior year in college. Actually, could have been earlier, but James wasn't willing. First, I thought he didn't like me, but he told me, "Wait until graduation. If you still haven't fallen for someone else by then, we'll be together." I didn't understand. Why? That day, his eyes were really dull. After a long while, he said in a hoarse voice, "Oliver, I'm a disabled person. Before, we were in a small place, and there weren't many outstanding people in the county. It was normal for you to focus on me. But now we're at a university in the capital. There are so many people who are more outstanding and better than me. You should go out more, communicate with others, instead of always hovering around me." I got angry when I heard that and kissed him. I'm absolutely certain that there's no one better for Oliver in this world than James. When I was a kid, my dad always called me a jinx, a loser. I used to think so too, but not anymore. I love James, and James loves me. I'm really lucky. James' side story. I didn't start having contact with Oliver until after my leg was amputated. Before that, in my memory, he was just a skinny, delicate, and shy boy in the class. I never thought his true nature was so shameless. After I had my leg amputated, everyone avoided me, including my relatives and my lover. Only he stuck to me like a ghost and accompanied me through the toughest time. He stood in front of me and shielded me when I was being laughed at. He once asked me if I was with him because I was touched by him. "No. Then do you like me out of pity?" As he said this, he leaned against me, looking at me with a pair of clear eyes. It seemed that even if I said yes, he wouldn't be sad. "No." I looked at him earnestly. "I wouldn't have desires for someone just out of pity. there are plenty of people in the world who have it worse than you. Then why do you like me? I don't know. I really don't know. It just seemed like all of a sudden, I started liking him. He always smiled at me, and his smile was really nice. After getting used to it, I couldn't help but take a few more glances. Then I found that in his clear eyes, there was a passionate soul hidden. So when did you realize you liked me? On New Year's Eve, your 19th birthday. I remembered this clearly. It was snowing that day. I suddenly really wanted to see you, so I went to find you, and there you were, washing dishes in a really dirty store, with chilblains all over your hands. I was such a mess. You still liked me? Yeah. Then you really love me deeply. Yeah. Also on that day, I suddenly thought it was quite meaningless to let myself wallow in self-indulgence. I had to get out, let everyone see that even if my legs were broken, I could still make my way out of these overlapping mountains. I wanted to take Oliver out with me, so that he wouldn't have to wash dishes in a small restaurant in the cold winter anymore. Those hands should be clean and fair, and they should be used to play the piano, draw pictures, and write. Years later, there was a class reunion. I became a corporate executive, and he became an engineer. We were being complimented by those who had looked down on us and slandered us before. Oliver, you really had everyone fooled. Back then, you got into that elite program, then went straight on to do your PhD, and ended up in the research institute affiliated with the university. Even now, the math teacher still talks about you to the new students every year, a classmate who stayed to work in the county town side with emotion. Oliver just smiled, clinked glasses with that person, took a sip of the drink in his glass, and didn't say much. He didn't like this person because he had scolded him before, but it seemed like all these people had forgotten about it. I thought this kind of class reunion was really boring, but he insisted on coming. I knew he wanted to meet those female classmates who had been kind to him back then. During the meal, I went to the bathroom. When I came back, I happened to hear the study monitor say to Oliver, "You're really different now, Oliver." Oliver looked confused for a moment. Have I changed a lot? Yeah, you seem a lot more confident now. Turns out worldly success really gives people a sense of security and freedom. But he just chuckled, lowered his head, and shook it. No, my confidence and sense of security both come from James. I stopped in my tracks. Suddenly, my throat started itching, so I went outside for a smoke. It wasn't long before Oliver came looking for me. Aha! You're smoking behind my back. He came right up, snatched the cigarette from my mouth, put it in his own, and took a puff, looking at me smugly. Suddenly, I remembered that day when I saw him showing off in front of one of my admirers, blowing smoke rings at the guy. I suddenly felt a sense of achievement. I've raised him pretty well, haven't I? He can be so calm because he trusts me. I don't like men in general. I only like Oliver.